Hello and welcome back to the Goat Cave podcast. Today's guest is a Canadian pro rider who got his start in Nelson, British Columbia. His incredible style and simplicity has earned him a spot on some of the biggest brands in BMX over the years, like United, Profile, MacNeil, Demolition, Free Agent, and others. Not only has Andrew Lazaruk been helping to put Canada on the map with its endless talent of BMX riders, but he is also one half of Canada's newest BMX distributing company, Timeless, which is responsible for supplying shops all over Canada with products from United, Relic, and the Fast and Loose crew. When he isn't doing a perfect tabletop out of the deep end of your backyard pool, he is maintaining one of the top 5 beards in all of BMX. It's a pleasure to be sitting down with Hollywood B-list celebrity, Andrew Lazaruk. Andrew, how are you doing, dude?
I'm good, and thank you for that intro. I don't know about some of that stuff, but I appreciate it and excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. So when I was doing research for this, I found a thing from Dig where they said that you're like Hollywood B-list celebrity. And I don't know why, but it just made me laugh so hard.
You know who wrote that was actually another guest on your show was Calvin Kosovich.
Yeah, that makes sense. The most handsome man in BMX.
Yeah, because that Dig video, he actually filmed that.
That's awesome.
I'm assuming because he was the one going back and forth with Will at Dig about the video, obviously. So I don't know how it came about, but he was the one who wrote that little intro thing for it.
I love it, man. Yeah, Calvin is sick. We had a really good conversation, and he's one of those guys that, like, I wasn't too sure how things were going to go when I went into it, and by the end of it, I felt like I had known the guy for so long. You know, he's just such an approachable dude.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. He's the best. I've filmed like a good amount of stuff with him over the years, and he's like always one of my favorite people to film with.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And he's another one that actually has just left the U.S., and we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, let's start off where you got started in riding. So tell us about Nelson, BC, and what it was like growing up there and what the riding scene was like.
Growing up was awesome. It was, I mean, the scene back then was so crazy, and I was so young when I got exposed to it that I wasn't even really aware of the significance of the scene, in the sense that, like, Rob Siggety was here, and at the time I had gone to the local indoor park that we had in town like once or twice. I didn't know anything about it. I still didn't even really know what BMX was. But then from going there and seeing it was him, and I'm not sure who else was riding at the time, but that was like my first like real life exposure to like what BMX looked like and was. So beyond that, I was like, I had, I guess you would say, a BMX bike. It was just like my bike at the time. I think it was like some 20-inch Norco with a coaster brake. But after going and seeing those dudes ride at the indoor park, I like went to one of the local shops in town to try to get some pegs. And at the shop, that's one of the guys there who was helping us out told me that there's this pro rider who lives in town. He's the one who built the skate park, and kind of gave me like a little bit of info. But again, I was so young that it wasn't that significant at the time because I couldn't fully absorb like what that actually meant. But then obviously the older I got and the more into riding I got, I realized that like what Rob did for the scene here, and not even just locally in Nelson, but like the contests that he used to throw in the early 90s were like some of the biggest contests in North America, which was cool to be around that piece of history.
Dude, that is really cool. I honestly wasn't too sure if Nelson had like, you know, even a scene, like just because it's kind of in the middle of British Columbia, right? Like towards the border a little bit, but it's right dead in the middle. And whenever you think about BMX in BC, you think of Vancouver, right? All those dudes shredding Hastings, all those awesome parks out there. And I wasn't even sure if you guys had a like skate park. So it's really cool to hear that there was a bit of a scene.
Yeah, so that was, again, when I was really young, when I first started riding. So it was really cool because when I was getting my start in it, that's there was like Rob was still, I think he was still on GT at the time. So he was always at the park killing it. And because of the fact that he had such a, he originally got the skate park built back in the early 90s when it was a private park called the Garage. And then I'm not sure how the logistics of it worked, but the city ended up taking over that building and made it into a youth center. And the skate park stayed and was just part of the youth center. So even when that happened, Rob and the other locals still had a really big role in the skate park of it, like in terms of building and designing the ramps and stuff. So when Rob was still like an active pro rider, the ramps there were always awesome. It was like kind of intimidating to like have like more gnarly stuff to like learn to ride on, but it was a really good experience.
Dude, absolutely. We had Dave Thomas, who's the general manager of Joyride, on recently, and we talked literally about that, right? Because I don't know if you've seen Joyride, I don't know if you've been there, but in the last few years, sorry.
Yeah, I haven't been, but I've like obviously seen like all of Drew's edits from there and so much other stuff over the years.
Yeah, I was going to say in the last few years, we've seen those ramps really, really, really like ramp up. They're really big. They're really gnarly. And if you're not like a local there, it can be extremely intimidating. But when you go in and you see the dudes that are riding, like, oh my God, man, it's ridiculous. These guys are shredders, and like young kids too, you know? So
yeah,
I guess
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say it kind of matches up with that, right? Like if you've got these bigger ramps that you have to learn on, you'll learn real quick, I bet. Like
100%. And not to like the ramps in Nelson, like the building that the park was in is pretty small for an indoor park, but still though, when you're a kid and haven't seen anything, like I remember the first time I saw a 6-foot coping spine, I was like, how do you possibly go over this thing? And I remember being so terrified to try and jump it for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I see a 6-foot coping spine and I'm still terrified. Like I know I can do it.
That's because there aren't that many of them, and like a lot of people say the same thing, but like I'm so glad that my local park had one, because it's like just so, it's like ingrained in my memory. It's like I've learned it so young, and it's just like got over that fear a long time ago.
Absolutely, man. So in those early days when you first started riding, what was like the first true BMX bike that you got?
So like I said, when I first like kind of got an idea what BMX was, I was riding some 20-inch Norco, whatever it was.
Right.
And then actually, so the whole Nelson contest thing was kind of there's another crazy story part of that where, so like I said, I didn't know the full history that the town had or anything. And I was like most young kids, I played soccer when I was like in elementary school. So I'd already been to the skate park once or twice, and I was on the way to a soccer game. And when we were going, just the route we had to take went past the skate park. And when we went by, there was a ton of BMX bikes out like in front of the park. And so after the soccer game, I got my mom to take me to the skate park. And that happened to be one of the Nelson contests. So we go in there, and Jay Miron's there, Dave Osato's there.
Whoa.
Like, it was insane. Like I said, I knew that the later found out the significance of the Nelson contest and stuff, but this was all so new to me. And just like a week or two before, I had literally seen like a replay of one of the X Games on TV of when Jay Miron was on there, and now he was all of a sudden like in my hometown, which like Nelson's a really small town. So I was just surprised that there are that many BMX bikes there to begin with. And then when I saw the dude I just saw on TV there too, my mind was blown.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's crazy to think about, right? Like those dudes are literally like Canadian legends. Those are some of the biggest names to ever come from Canada.
It was crazy. Like Enns was there too. Like literally like all the top dudes at the time just happened to be there. But so to answer your question, from that, like Jay like was just like one of my all-time favorite riders, and especially at that time, he probably was my favorite rider. And so my next bike after that was one of his super low end like Schwinn complete bikes.
Dude, that's pretty crazy though, to think about kind of how, BMX has come for you over the years, right? You're starting out with these Schwinn like Jay Miron bikes, and then it wouldn't be too long and you'd actually be riding for his company. And at this point, I'm not 100% sure if he owned it or not, or if he had sold
He
off.
he at the time I rode for MacNeil, he had already sold it off, but through that time, like through Metro jams and stuff, like me and Jay had like ended up hanging out a decent amount and stuff. And so yeah, I mean, when that started happening, like when I'd like go to the bar with him or like just session in park or something, like that was still like one of the craziest things for me personally, just because it's I looked up to him from such a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been quite a few riders on here that had like, some sort of pro, or they had a bike from a company that they got when they were super young, and then they ended up riding for them like years later, right?
Yeah,
It's pretty wild to think about how that kind of happens, right? Things come full circle.
no, totally. And especially like in Canada too, where like the industry is a little bit tighter. It's crazy. That's what's one of the really cool things about BMX is like situations like that can happen.
Absolutely, man. I honestly think Canada has some of the best riders to ever walk this earth, man. Think about it right now. It's like you can name off three like right away. Jay Miron,
Oh,
Dave
100%.
Asado, Corey
Yeah.
Walsh, Drew Bezanson. All these dudes
Yeah.
are massive.
Jason Enns. Yeah.
Jason Enns, yeah.
Paul Buchanan. Like
Exactly.
it's really, really cool. There's a lot of history there.
Absolutely, man. Anyways, we were talking a couple minutes ago about, the Nelson contests and whatnot. Let's talk about you and contest riding. So when did you actually go for your first contest, and what contest was it?
Technically it would have been actually one of the Nelson contests when I was like in
Nice.
high school.
Yeah.
And then from that, probably a street justice in Edmonton that 1664 used to put on. And then actually also probably around the same time, I'm not sure which was first. There used to be that other indoor park in just outside of Edmonton, Thorsby, and they used to have a super rad contest in the wintertime.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we used to do the trip from like Nelson area with a couple dudes and go to those. That was a super fun park. And then yeah, street justices and metro jams.
That's wild, man. And then obviously Metro Jam, huge part of Canadian BMX history. And
Yeah.
you rode in it in 2004, the Vancouver one. And then 2005, I hear that you had quite the cult following. A listener actually sent that in. Let's see here. No bikes _ on Instagram says,
Yeah, that's one of, yeah, I know him. That's Aaron.
I love it. Yeah, he says 2005 Metro Jam, you had a cult-like following. Can you explain that?
Well, that basically started as a like inside joke with some of my friends. So that 2005, I had just moved to Kelowna for the first time. And I was moving into like a basement suite with one person I knew a little bit, and then it was like a 3-bedroom place. So it was going to be me, the person I knew a little bit, and then someone I hadn't met at all yet, but he was like mutual friends. And so he asked the other person who was moving in, and the person said, "Oh, it's Andrew Lazaruk." And the other guy was like, "Huh, Lazaruk, that sounds like LAZAR-DICK." And from that point on, everybody was like, "Holy shit, yeah, it kind of does." And then that just like stuck for like a good amount of years. And so that's kind of what happened. Well, fast forward to the Metro Jams during one of my, I think it was probably my first run. All my friends thought it'd be funny to start chanting LAZAR-DICK because obviously nobody else in the arena would have any idea what the fuck that is. So that's like how it started. And that was in like the qualifying. And this was when I was riding an expert at the time. And So they did that during qualifying, and I ended up qualifying for the finals. And the next day or whatever it was, day or two, next day, whatever the timeline was, they had made some cardboard signs with basically dicks with lasers on them. So,
that's incredible.
Yeah. So I ended up doing pretty good at that. Like, I think, yeah, that was the year I got second and Hango won. So I did pretty good, and I was trying to foo-foo the fence there, and so it took me like a good amount of tries. So throughout my whole run, they had the signs up and were like chanting it again. But then, like, as the contest progressed, more and more people in the arena started doing it. And then by the time it was like me trying the foo-foo, like everybody in the arena was.
Dude, that's incredible. That is so funny. That's a great story, man. And what I love too is, like, who knows, man, that might have played into how awesome you rode that day, because you took home second in expert, and the year prior you were 20th. So you jumped 18 spots. It
was just I mean, it was probably a combination of a lot of things, but that definitely had something to do with it. And then the following year was the first time I rode in pro at one, and they stepped the sign game up. They actually got some like made on like, I don't like proper card stock and stuff with like different colors and stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
Dude, that's incredible, man. Oh, dude, that's wild. Yeah, it's funny to hear that. You know, when I was in high school, the one day I show up to school, and my friends had all made like cutouts of my face, and they like were just walking around with my face on them all day. So I just walk into, you know, my first class of the day, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Yeah, there's just your face everywhere.
Yeah, it was like literally like 10 people in the class all throughout the room, just like, hey, how's it going? You're late. Like, all wearing my face.
That's so funny.
Dude. Yeah, anyways.
But yeah, it's funny because like a lot of people ask like where that nickname came from and stuff, and assume it's like some funny story or something weird, but it's like, it was literally just my roommate at the time, who I'd never met, just heard my last name for the first time, was like, oh, that sounds like that, and then it just turned into
stuck, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, another fan sent in saying, this is from Blood Money Son. Ask him why we call him LAZAR-DICK. So I was really excited for that. And he didn't just send me that on like the question sticker. He also DM'd me that to say, hey, make sure you ask him that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of people think it's like gonna be something way crazier than it is, but it's like the most like harmless like thing that could possibly be. It just escalated from there.
Oh, man, I love it. That's so funny. Anyways, I was going to ask, you know, you've actually rode in both Metro Jams, right? You rode in the Toronto one as well as the Vancouver one. In your opinion, what one do you think was better?
I don't think I could actually say that one was better than the other. I would say there's a big difference between the two. And the difference was that Toronto always happened when there was like snow on the ground. So realistically, the only riding that would happen that weekend was in the arena at the contest. And it's like, as most BMXers are, like, and you're away, like at a contest, everybody just like parties super hard. And not that there wasn't like a lot of that in Vancouver too, but because there wasn't snow on the ground, and those were in September, and Vancouver's pretty nice in September.
Right.
Like, a lot of people would, if they weren't at the contest, they'd be out riding skate parks instead of just at the bar, you know?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It was like, both were very equally enjoyable, but it was just slightly different environments.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was going to say the Toronto ones have always had that crazy after party, you know? The one year, I think it was 2004, maybe 2005, actually, who knows? I should know, but I don't. It's one of those years. But Matt Beringer was there, and I guess some people broke the front window at a bar during one of like the BMX video premieres.
Mm-hmm.
I had a listener message me last week, and he was telling me all about that. He was there. I was like, that is wild, man. That's pretty crazy.
I wasn't at that one, but I've heard like a pretty detailed account for what happened during that time.
Yeah, man, that's hilarious. And what I was going to ask too is, your riding has changed a lot over 16 years, I would say, and I'm sure you would agree. I think most people's riding changes a lot. So, how does 2005 Metro Jam Andrew LAZAR-DICK differ from 2021? Just your riding style in general, or like. Obviously, I don't think you're really much of a contest guy anymore, which I don't think many people are.
Yeah, and I wasn't necessarily at the time. It's just the contests that were around then are way different than what they are now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's just like it was just different. Like it was like legitimately fun. Like people were there. The courses were always different. The courses had a little bit of everything. It was like, dude, like Dave Mira was at one, and you'd have like Dave Mira and like a brakeless, pegless street rider like riding the same course, which is pretty crazy. And I mean, that type of thing just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
But in terms of my riding, I don't know. I just like now I'd say more so I just know what I like to do and what I like to ride. And I just kind of focus on that. And for me now, since I do know like what I like to do and that type of thing, it's more so finding new spots and like riding new stuff is what gets me more excited. Like I don't really care about learning something new per se. It's just like I'm way more excited to like go check out a place I've never been to before, or build something new, or like try and just find something I hadn't seen before or ridden before.
Absolutely, man. I find myself kind of in a similar situation, right? Like I've been riding for close to 10 years now. I've been able to do a lot throughout riding. I filmed 2 full-length videos. I've traveled a bunch to do that, at least through like Southern Ontario, Quebec. And nowadays I find it more fun to just go and find something new to ride,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I haven't learned a new trick in a long time. Like right now I'm trying to learn bar spins, and that's it. Like it's it's more fun for me to just go and find something new, essentially.
Totally. And you know what? Like by doing that, like I've been in the situation a couple times where it's like by finding the right spot or like just going to somewhere new, it just sparks something where it's like, oh yeah, maybe I can do this, even though I've never done it before. It just like works good for this spot. And they'll, in a weird roundabout way, like almost make you learn something new that way too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anyways, let's move on to MacNeil. We mentioned it earlier. You actually rode for MacNeil for quite a little while, I believe.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to find a specific date on when you kind of joined the team, but I do know that you kind of, left in 2013, 2014, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so when did you get picked up by MacNeil, and what was it like being hooked up with a Canadian company, especially since you're a Canadian rider yourself, and most of the team at this point was Canadian, if I'm correct.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think it was. Well, from the Metro Jams, and obviously it was like Jay and the dudes at 10 Pack MacNeil, like essentially putting the Metro Jams on and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of my introduction to a lot of those guys. And from that one that we were just talking about where I placed second, I kind of like started getting a little bit of a hookup from then. Just like wasn't anything crazy. It was just like a good discount on parts and stuff. And then it just kind of naturally evolved from there. And then I forget. So for a while, I was just like kind of hooked up through 10 Pack with MacNeil stuff. And then it was, I think like what really like properly got me on the team was I was already down in California. It was my first California trip I'd ever taken. I was down there, and MacNeil happened to already have a trip scheduled to go from Vegas to Phoenix, and it was going to be like a article and ride, and they're making like a little web video and stuff from it. I wasn't originally like meant to go on that trip, but Chris Silva ended up hurting his ankle like right before the trip was about to start. And Darcy at MacNeil, who once Jay left, it was Darcy and Jamie were like the two guys at the company.
Yep.
Darcy knew I was in the States and hit me up. He's like, "Hey, do you want to go on this trip now since Silva can't make it? It's leaving from Vegas at this time." So I was like, "Yeah, for sure. Like that sounds awesome." So I was in Southern California at the time. So I think the date that the trip was supposed to start was maybe like a week or so from when he hit me up. So I just drove to Vegas, left my car at the hotel, and then hopped in the van with them, and we did rode Vegas for a couple of days, drove to Phoenix, rode Phoenix for a couple of days, and then, like I said, it was a article and ride, and then from there, I didn't know, but one of the photos that was shot on the trip was my first MacNeil ad in Ride magazine.
Dude, that's wild. That's so crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And actually, I'm really close friends with Silva. Silva, if you're listening,
Sick.
how's it going, dude? Yeah, dude, I love Silva. He's incredible. The dude's such a great rider. It sucks that he wasn't
So
able to
good.
go on the trip. However, dude, pretty damn awesome that you got to go instead, you know?
Yeah, it was a weird, like such a weird, yeah, but I mean, things just work out sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And when you got that photo in Ride, what kind of like what was it? What were you doing, if you don't mind me asking? Let me see if I can pull it up.
There's a, I'm sure you know that there's a super famous hip in an Arizona ditch that like everybody's ridden. And I was just doing like a Euro table over it, but Harrison Boyce shot the photo, and the way he shot it, it was, I don't know if it was 100% planned the way he did it, but he shot it from across the street of the ditch. And I could be wrong, but I think there's a car that's like driving by one of the lanes as I'm jumping the hip. So, I mean, what I'm doing isn't the craziest thing at all by any means, but just the like aesthetic of the whole photo in general just ended up looking pretty cool. And they ended up using that as, my first ad.
A good Euro table is like such a sick trick too, though. You know, like it's such a awesome feeling, such a great looking trick as well.
Well, I mean, that's kind of part of the reason why like those tricks are my favorite, just because like they are obviously the more simple tricks, but the way everybody does them differently. So it's like, even though like you have 5 people do a tabletop, each one's going to look different still.
Yeah,
That's like
absolutely.
kind of what I like about those type of tricks, where it's like, even though it's not necessarily the most complex by any means, they're still very like personality orientated, I guess. It's like they're very defined by the person doing them too.
Definitely, man. And anyways, you know, there was a trip that you guys went on to Long Beach where you guys basically just, you know, rented a house for 6 weeks and filmed. So
Yep.
what was that like, man? Because I can only imagine, you know, you put a bunch of BMX riders in a house for 6 weeks and just let shit happen. There's got to be some crazy stories.
Yeah, I mean, the riding was obviously super good. Everybody killed it. Probably the craziest story about that was we almost got kicked out of the house because we, like, obviously everybody's going to say we didn't do anything, but we legitimately didn't do anything crazy in this scenario. The property was like a vacation rental type home. So I think part of like one of the stipulations of like the rental agreement is that they had to have their like cleaning person come, like, I don't know if it was once a week or every couple days or something. So one of the times the cleaning person came, she saw like a bunch of like bike parts and honestly like nothing bad, like nothing crazy, but I think it might have had to been when 1 or 2 people had just gotten there, so it was a good amount of people in the house, and I don't know if we were like over the limit we were supposed to have, but it there was like a ton of shit in the house and like bike parts and stuff everywhere. and everybody had like a laptop, so there was like computers everywhere in the living room and stuff. The cleaning person wrote a letter to the owners of the property, who were in like Hong Kong or something crazy at the time, basically saying that we were doing like crazy illegal stuff there. We had like a network of computers set up. She thought that there was a crank arm sitting on like one of the kitchen counters. She thought that that was a broken pot handle. She said we broke a bunch of like dishware and stuff, and like basically said we like fucked the place up. We're doing like some type of illegal computer shit in the living room, and told that to the owner of the property. They then saw that, wrote Darcy at MacNeil this crazy letter, and he emailed it to me and was like, "What are you guys doing there?" And I was like, "What?" Yeah. So it ended up like getting smoothed over, but it was like a kind of iffy couple days where like we didn't know if we were going to be getting kicked out or what was going to be happening.
Dude, that is wild. Yeah, that's pretty crazy to think about. I love how it's like, if you don't know what a BMX part looks like and you don't know about BMX, you don't know any of that. Oh, they broke a handle off this pot.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was, like I said, is because I think some people had just gotten there, so they had their stuff everywhere. But then other guys had been there, because the situation was MacNeil rented the house for a month, and you could basically just stay or as long or as short time as you wanted. So some dudes stayed a long time, others stayed less time, and it was this happened towards the end of it. So a couple of the dudes that had been there for a while like needed new stuff. So I think like a shipment of parts had just shown up, so there was like fucking bike boxes and shit everywhere, plus like people had just arrived, so they had their like belongings everywhere. So basically the cleaning person came at like one of the worst times they could possibly come in terms of like the messiness of it. And then I don't know, for some reason all the laptops like really weirded her out.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, definitely I guess, who knows, right? If you came into this office right now, you'd probably think the same thing. There's like two iMacs right there, one right here, a MacBook here, another one over there. Like, it's all literally just that it's like, this is my podcasting equipment. You know, it sounds stupid, but this is what I use.
No, I mean, it is what it is. And it's like, some people just don't have any idea what that stuff looks like.
Yeah, exactly, man. Anyways, you know, all good things come to an end at some point. And, you know, a few years back, you decided to part ways with MacNeil. And it seemed pretty good, like no bad, you know, blood or anything like that, at least from just the stuff that I had seen online. Do you mind talking to us a little bit about why you kind of left MacNeil?
Well, I didn't leave.
Okay.
I got dropped.
Oh, well.
So, that was, I mean, that was not the best timing for me personally, because I had just broken my leg, and I was it was just like a bit of a bummer. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's still, for being what it was, it's still on good terms and stuff. So, I mean, like, I'm still friends with all those guys, and, like, I hope to see Darcy this summer at some point. But, yeah, it just, for whatever reason, they didn't want to, and I think they were, like, the company was going through some stuff at the time where because that was towards the end of, the 10-pack time and stuff too. So right. I think they were, again, I don't know the exact details, but that's what happened.
Well, and dude,
it was just bad timing for me, because I had just broken my leg, and I was like, oh shit, like, that sucks.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I can't believe I got that wrong, but oh well, it's not a big deal.
Oh no, like, I mean, no, like, I don't think a lot of people probably don't even know that. So
right.
That was like kind of around the time when Instagram wasn't like as popular as it is now. So I don't even remember what I said about it on my end at that time. So it, like, yeah, I still don't think a lot of people know that, like, that's the situation anyways.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is I remember working in a shop at the time that 10-pack kind of stopped. You know, they weren't able to continue, and after that, MacNeil kind of vanished for a little while, right? Like, they didn't kind of like completely go away, but they really weren't that prominent. They really weren't, you know, making too many strides in the BMX world. I don't even know like who was riding for them for a few years there. I know obviously Silva was because he was with them for 13 years or so.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, yeah, he's one of the best things I ever had.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's kind of a weird stage, right? Like I remember even just thinking when, we heard the 10 pack was done, well, where are we going to get BMX stuff from, right? And for months we had a really hard time, and I remember I had broken a We the People frame that I was riding, and I needed a new
Hmm.
frame. And they only had premium and Haro, and it just really wasn't my thing at that moment. Not to say that their stuff isn't, good. Obviously, it's very good. It's very good quality
No, of
shit.
course, but it's like it's just not what you like. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes total sense.
yeah, I really wanted to get a BSD frame at that point, and
Yeah.
I ended up going through a different bike shop and pretty much got fired for that because they were like, "Dude, you can't just be buying other stuff from another shop if you want to like rep us, right?" And there was a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other stuff with it, right? We were going into the winter season, so they just laid me off. I was like, "All right, that's fine, you do you." But
Hmm.
it's interesting to see, right? Like obviously BMX is a weird thing, and sometimes when you look at it as like a bike shop perspective, if you want to make money, you go to mountain biking and road biking because those bikes are so expensive. The maintenance on them is so like much, like there's so many people
100%.
that don't know what they're doing to fix it. Whereas a BMX bike, if you ride brakeless, all you really need to do is make sure your bolts are tight and that your wheels are true, right?
Yeah, if
Like,
you have a 6 mil Allen key, you're good to go.
yeah, exactly. And then on top of that too, BMX really isn't that expensive. When you get into the world of like
Hmm.
mountain biking and whatnot, like it gets insane, dude. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
mountain, road, like basically anything about BMX.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting to kind of see where things went with that, and I'm happy that MacNeil's still around, obviously, and that there's other distros that kind of picked them up, and even like all the companies that they were working with. I know that I think Ryder got quite a few, and then Kill 'Em All picked up a few, and then 1664 slash Brink, they did as
Yep.
well. But yeah, it was
Well, but yeah, I can't remember the exact timeline, but it wasn't too long after 10 pack closed down that Brink 1664 did also, right?
Yeah, it really wasn't too long after that. And I know that they changed it from 1664 because they wanted to make 1664 a company. And they had a
Hmm.
frame out. They had, I think it was the bone saw
Yep.
frame made by S&M. And there's a few other
Yep.
like products that they had. Actually, I think I'm riding 1664 cranks right now. But
Yeah, I think they made like a whole line of stuff, I think, like rims, seat, yeah, just like component stuff basically, I think.
yeah, and then they changed their name to Brink, and I remember they did not last long under that. It was like a year. And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but I guess that's just the way that things roll sometimes. Um, anyways, we'll get into more distro talk a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when did you first find your love of pools? Because pools have always been something that you've rode, right? Like you can go back as far
Well,
as possible with your videos, and there's a pool clip for sure.
yeah. So that was definitely it's kind of weird. So in a weird roundabout way that almost goes back to the Nelson Park that I grew up riding. So as I said, when I was first getting into it, Rob Siggety was still like an active pro rider, and he was like always making sure the skate park was dialed and the ramps were amazing. When he kind of stopped riding, the the guys that were in the scene like around his age also kind of stopped too, and with that, so did like the upkeep of the ramps and stuff. And then it like the people designing and keeping up with the ramps changed hands a bunch of times, and the skate park like had a really quick decline. But somewhere or another there was this like private skater owned indoor half pipe thing that used to be in Vancouver called the Crack Pipe. in in some like I can't remember because like the Nelson has a pretty big skate history too. So when the location that the Crack Pipe was at in Vancouver, when they needed to move out of there, somehow they got the Crack Pipe into the Nelson Indoor Park. So they brought it from Vancouver up there,
Whoa.
and it was a super like tight transitioned half pipe. But when they brought it into the indoor park, they enclosed the ends and made it like a pill shaped bowl.
Right.
So it was, for the majority of it, was 4 foot and 5 foot with a 6 foot extension that went to vert. And there was a 8 foot extension that had like 2 feet of vert on it.
Nice.
So it was like super, super tight transitions. And at first I was like, well, this is like impossible to ride on a BMX bike. And then, cause like, keep in mind, I'm still like in high school at this time, had ridden maybe like 1 or 2 concrete parks, definitely never ridden a pool or anything, but that was just what we had to ride. So like, eventually you figure it out. And, I honestly think like that, having that as the local and kind of your only thing to ride is really what helped me like figure out how to ride tight transitions and stuff. And because of that, it translated into all kinds of other things. But in Canada, I had ridden maybe like 1 or 2 pools, but it wasn't until like being in Southern California for a little bit that I really got like the full like Southern California pool experience. And a big part of that, or like the majority of that, had to do with Jason Enns. So that's like, yeah, if it wasn't for him, it probably would be a little different.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Riding those tight transitions where everything is really like, it sounds really stupid, and this might only translate to video, but when you like take a quarter pipe and you just start squishing the bottom of it, it's like, it's literally like that, right? Like the transition at the bottom is so tight. And when you ride something like that, at first it can be really, really weird. But after a little while, man, it gets really, really fun. Like, as long as you know how to like go into it and come out of it, you're set, man. Like,
totally, because it's a totally different type of pump. But once you like figure the quickness out and like how to do that, it's so fun.
absolutely.
And especially like related to pools specifically, like the fact that each one is different. It's like that, like we were talking about earlier, of like how like my riding's changed and stuff, where I was saying I like to just find and ride new stuff. Like the fact that each pool is different, and when you first get there, you have to really figure out how to actually ride the thing instead of being like, all right, I'm going to do this trick here, this trick there. It's like, well, no, you have to figure out how you're going to get speed to even get over in that area and that type of thing, which is my favorite stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to pools, it's like you said, each one is different, but it's not like, each skate park is different. It's nothing like that. This is so beyond different. Like some of the pools that I've seen you ride, I swear to God, it's only 1 foot of transition and the rest of it is like straight up vert, like.
Yeah, I mean, but that's how some of them are. And it's like, it also too, it's like, it just, stuff rides so different than it looks in videos, like anything, even street spots and stuff too. But it's like, it's such a interesting thing. And that's kind of why I got so into it, is just because I remember there was one day specifically where I went out with Enns and forget who else was with us, but we hit like 4 in a day. And I was like, this is fucking sick. Like,
yeah.
It's so cool because, like, yeah, we rode 4 pools, but those are like 4 completely different things, like in terms of shape, transition, like all that stuff. So, and that day for me is what really like solidified that,
dude. And it's also like, it's not like a Starbucks. You can't just go to one at each corner. Like each pool is so far in between, right? Like there's 2 pools that I know of within like a 2-hour radius of here, and both of them are pretty much done, or they've been demolished, or like one of them, a family just bought that property, so you can't even go there now. Like if you go there, you're 100% going to get arrested. And then the other one, from what I gathered, the house has been demolished because they're building condos there. So it's just funny where it's like, how often are you going to be able to actually like find a pool, and to ride 4 of them at a time? That's gotta be a Southern California thing. Like, yeah,
I mean, it's a total different like realm over there, but it's like, even still though, like that many in a day is like, that's crazy.
It's unheard of. Yeah.
But, yeah. It's pretty sick. But yeah, I mean, obviously Southern California, they're much easier to come by, but yeah, it's still just as exciting, like going to one for the first time, or like finding a new one, or anything like that.
Definitely, man. Let's see here. What else we got? So, actually, while we're on the topic of pools, I really wanted to mention, Pool Seekers, because you were a pretty big part of that with Mr. Rick Thorne, guest of the show,
Yep.
friend of the show. How did you get?
Yeah, Rick's awesome.
Yeah, he is, man. He's so crazy. How did you get involved with Pool Seekers? Obviously, that's like a great opportunity.
That was just because of being friends with Rick.
Right.
And he's always like constantly doing something new and, but yeah, always progressing and changing it up. So that was just like a natural evolution of like him starting something. And at the time we were just riding a lot of pools together and just riding together a decent amount in general. That, it just, when he was starting to put the show together, he asked me and me and the other dudes to go on it, and I was like, yeah, of course, it sounds like a good time. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, man, it seems like it was probably one of the like best things to be a part of, right? Like, how often do you get to be involved with a TV show where it's like, or not a TV show, but a YouTube show, like a production where you're just going to go and travel and ride pools? Like, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, again, like you said, that's a thing you can't do in too many places other than Southern California. Granted, we went to Vegas for one of the episodes, but that was basically the same thing. There's a ton of pools there also.
Yeah, and throughout that, you got to ride so many cool pools, dude. One of the ones that I've always wanted to ride that I was really blown away that you guys got to go there was the First Castle. And there's a lot of history there. I've talked about it a couple times on the show. The Beastie Boys did a music video there. If you go and watch the Hey Ladies video from the Beastie Boys, that's that pool. The Beach Boys did some sort of thing there. The Beatles did something there, I believe. It's just wild to think that, this thing has been involved in so many different projects. And then finally you guys are able to drain it and ride it. What was that like?
Well, the first time any of us rode it, I think me, Rick, and a good friend of ours, Jeff, were the first bike riders to ride it. I think like a couple dudes had skated it before, but at the time it was just one of those things that I think it might have been Jeff who found it on Google Maps and like showed it to us. And from the aerial view of it, looks insane. So like any pool you find through the internet or however you find it, you immediately get excited and start trying to figure out how you can go there and what the best way to get into the property, try to figure out if anybody lives there, like all the usual pool related things. So the first time we went, we thought that it was like the property was empty. And so we like snuck in the back kind of, which is like you climb up a hill through a neighborhood, hop over a chain link fence since you're in the property. And it's like the way when you come in that back way, since the property is in like the side of a hill, when you hop over that fence, you're almost like level with the roof of the house. And there's like a little ladder right there to get on the roof.
Right.
So we went up the ladder, looked on the roof of the house to like, we're trying to be all stealth and quiet to assess if anybody was there, like what we should do. And we got up on the roof and looked over, and the pool looked way crazier than we could ever like imagine. But the deep end was full of water at the time. So we were like, well, fuck it. We're on the property right now. Like we're on the roof of the house. Like we have to like try ride it in some capacity. So even though the deep end was full of water, like the thing's so big that we also didn't know like what the transition was like from when we were up on the roof. So we get off the roof, go back around, go down to the pool. And the whole pool is like, it's not like a regular pool at all. Like it's more or less just like big steep banks.
Yep.
And there is one like little pocket in like I guess it would be like the medium end of the pool that you can like kind of do like airs on and stuff. because like I said, the deep end was completely unrideable. It was totally full of water. So we just rode that for a little bit, and it was just crazy to be there at that point, because dude, it's pretty surreal when you're there in person, because the square footage that the pool takes up is way bigger than you can imagine. It's huge. So it was just crazy to be there and see it in person. So we rode that little end for a little bit and then left. And then after that, I think it was Rick and Jeff again who happened to go back, and I think they were the first people to ride it again when the pool was like completely empty.
Right. Yeah.
And then
sorry.
From doing that, somehow they actually met the like owner of the property, and it became a thing where instead of like having to like sneak in, essentially, that they made friends with the dude, and it was like like a permission session.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, man. And like even in here, you guys kind of do like a scripted version of you guys walking up and basically doing exactly what you just said. So it's cool to hear that actually happened at one point. It wasn't like it was scripted for that, but it wasn't
So what you're talking about, the cheesy scripted version of it, is more or less what happened when we went there the first time.
Yeah. That's,
I mean, obviously there's some variables added in here and there, things change, but like that's pretty much how it went.
Yeah, exactly. And what I love here too is you did a foot plant over the diving board. We would have saw that a couple minutes ago here, and it's just so cool, man. That's such a wild trick to do. I think I forget who it was, but they dropped in on the diving board. Those are always wild as well.
Yeah, Chad Osborne.
Oh, dude, that guy is crazy. That guy is so good.
Dean may have done a diving board drop in too. Also, I can't remember. But yep. Chad definitely did.
Yeah, Dean's done. He's done one or two. He's like, Dean's the pool god. He is the pool dad. Yeah. Like, he's so good.
Drop in off the roof is one of the craziest things ever.
Absolutely,
like not just pool riding, but just in general riding. That is insane.
Yeah, dude, Dean is he's wild, man. That's Mr. Cowboy Dean. He's pretty crazy. I love him. It's really interesting. Like, I don't know how well you know Dean, but to hear that he's like a high school teacher,
mm-hmm.
and then like he's also constantly going and riding pools and whatnot, dude, where are these kind of teachers when I was in high school? Like,
no, exactly.
Yeah, it's just so wild. And he's like such a well-respected dude within the industry as well. Like, he's just he's his own guy, man. Nobody will ever be like Dean, which is awesome, Yeah,
no, he's one of a kind. He's super cool.
Yeah, definitely.
We've been lucky, like the past couple summers in LA, we've gotten a good amount of pool sessions in.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, when it comes to pools, how many pools do you think you've rode over your time? Dean is getting close to 500 is what he was saying, because he's actually documenting these. Like, he's going that extra step.
It's funny. I mean, I guess we all kind of do, in the sense where it's like, even if it's just taking a photo on your iPhone or something.
Right.
But I don't know, numbers wise, that's hard, because we've ridden so many that you don't even really consider riding, where like you'll literally carve around, like they'll be so bad that they're not even worth riding, but it's like, fuck it, you're there, like we'll just
carve around it,
try and carve it the best we can, and then leave, just to like put some tire marks down or say you rode it. So when you take like the ones like that into consideration, I don't know, but like 100 maybe.
Nice. That's pretty fucking crazy though, dude. Like, I think most BMX riders that have rode a pool, so right then and there, let's put this down to like, 80% of the BMX riders in the world have not rode a pool. Like, it's like 20% have rode an actual backyard pool. And to be able to ride that many is incredible.
That's a estimate, but I think it's probably in that vicinity. But like I said, like a lot of them, like some of them wouldn't even be worth like actually noting, but like I guess we did technically ride them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if we can go back here a little bit, let's talk about some of your video parts and whatnot. One of the parts that I wanted to mention here was Native Curvature, which came out in 2016. So back then, I think you were riding for Demolition and Free Agent, if I'm correct.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so that obviously featured some great pool riding. I'm gonna throw it up behind me in a second here, but I don't know. This is kind of a thing that I do whenever I am filming a part for myself. I always set certain goals, like certain tricks that I want to do or certain things that I want to ride within it. Was there any of that for you, or has that kind of faded away? Because honestly, man, you've got so many video parts out. Like, obviously, you still care about each one, but yeah, kind of.
Yeah, that one specifically was kind of. There definitely wasn't like a specific direction or anything I wanted to accomplish, just because it wasn't we weren't sure where that project was going to go, and where, like, how it was going to work out, because Calvin, again, he filmed the majority of that stuff, but the last clip in it and a couple other ones Mike Mastroni filmed, and it started, I can't remember like what the first thing we would have filmed was, but at the time we didn't know. Actually, it might have been that clip that's playing in the background right now, because that day Calvin was filming some pool thing with ends that ended up being like a ride BMX thing.
Nice.
And we were just there, so I got a couple things at the pool at the same time, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then as it started progressing, we still weren't sure like what like source it was going to go out through or anything like that. And then that's kind of the like how I mean there was no like plan or anything with it, because it was just happened to be like we were able to go out together a couple times, and then he got busy with other stuff, and we weren't able to meet up as much. And then by the end, because I was on Free Agent at the time, Calvin ended up coming and filming a Free Agent trip that ended up going out on Ride also. And I think we got like one or two things on that trip. But then on that trip is the first time we actually like looked at the timeline of what we had, and then like kind of started putting it together. And I knew I had those two clips from Mastroni, and I think he had just sent them to Calvin also, so he was like putting all that stuff together. And then it just kind of turned into what it was, and then ended up coming out through Ride.
Yeah, I honestly love this video, man. It's a great video, right? Like, I think each video part is like different. It has its own thing, but I don't know why, man. I really, really enjoyed this one. I think, Calvin's filming is really really great. Obviously, your riding is super fun to watch, and just like what I love about like certain videos is like I love the colors and whatnot within it. Like that always has played a big thing for me. I don't know why. And I think that Calvin is like the perfect dude for that. He's really good behind the lens for that.
Yeah. What's cool about, I mean, it's the same with like a lot of parts that have like pool footage in it, but the majority of the pools that are in that part are gone now.
Wild. Yeah, that's crazy to think about. There's a full pipe that you ride in there as well, or like I guess it's like a set of full pipes,
Mm-hmm.
Those are
that's also
so
gone.
Crazy. Yeah, I believe it, man.
Well, they lasted for a long time, but just coincidentally, like after shortly after we filmed there, they got demolished. Chase Hawk has some clips there in Chapters, the Etnies video, from the same spot.
Really? That's crazy. Yeah,
and
man.
Then one of the pools in there too had also it got buried like since we filmed there for that part, and then got dug out again and is now buried again currently right now.
Dude, that's so wild. I always wonder why they even try and bury it, because like the Nude Bull proves that doesn't work. Like the Nude Bull has literally been buried 3 or 4 times, and it's just been dug out every time. Like, Honestly, I think especially with something like the Nude Bowl, just leave it, man. Like it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like I spent a little bit of time and I found it online and it's in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere. Like I am dead
It's
serious. You got to drive through like 20 minutes of desert just to friggin' find it. Like
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, but also like the road you drive on is so rugged that like you need like a 4x4 truck would be ideal, but I've seen people get up there in cars, which is crazy. But it's like it's really not that accessible, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it sticks around a little bit longer. I heard a rumor that that property it's on is actually on the market now for sale. So
oh man, I hope not. That Nude Bull has got to stay. That thing's incredible. Like
yeah.
it's its own piece of history, right? Like
The footage of like the dudes riding it in the 90s, like specifically Jay Miron, the stuff he did in there is so gnarly, like to this day. Like not that many people have done 540s in pools, and like him 540ing that way back then is so crazy.
so how does that pool compare to other ones that you've rode? Obviously, you've rode the Nude Bull, you've rode, 100 other pools, and I asked Dean the same question actually, but how does that pool compare to others, do you think? Is it like a better one to go and ride, or is it something that, it's just better because it has this big historic thing behind it? What are your thoughts?
Definitely a little bit of both of those things. The transition in the deep end's super good. It's good shape. The only downfall to it is that it's really, really slippery. I don't know if it's necessarily like all the paint that's been coated on there over the years, or the fact that it is in the desert and like surrounded by dirt and sand, and it gets really windy there too. So like, there's constantly like that blowing into the pool. But yeah, if that thing wasn't as slippery as it was, it ought like easily be like one of the top like pools in existence. But it's like it can be a little scary to ride at times just because of how slick it is.
Yeah, I can see that, man. And especially with it being in the desert, I feel like you honestly have to show up with a full cleaning kit every time. Like,
Yeah, well, 100%. But I mean, because it is a decently popular spot, there's usually like a broom or two sitting off like
in the
in
corner
the
or
surrounding
whatever,
areas
yeah.
that you can grab. But even still, though, like it's still pretty slick.
Yeah, I believe that, man. Anyways, yeah, we're jumping all over the place today, but I'm trying to do something new with my scripts where I basically go from like the beginning and I go through the years. So let's talk about United. Obviously, 2018, you got picked up through United,
Yep.
and you've been there ever since. And personally, my thoughts on this are that United is seriously probably the perfect company for you. I think that you guys are going to grow over the years, on and off the bike. Obviously, with you being a big part of Timeless and whatnot, I think that's going to play a great role in there. But yeah, overall, man, I think that that's the perfect place for you to grow. And how has your experience been so far? Are you loving it?
Yeah, 100%. That the whole way it came about was super like organically, like kind of best way possible. And I prior to riding for him, I got to know Ian pretty well, and it was just one of those things that worked itself out. And then yeah, now with us doing Timeless and that, it's like I'm really excited that I ended up riding for him, and now that we're doing the things we are now, that yeah, I couldn't be happier with that.
Absolutely. And, obviously, United has quite a few incredible riders on there, including Mr. Mike Escamilla, as well as Seamus McEwen, who is like, dude, he is so underrated. He should be like one of the top
100%.
dudes in BMX. I truly believe that like it's ridiculous that he isn't getting more coverage because that guy is so unreal.
He is so good. 100%. He is. When we did that United video in California in December last year, that was the first time I got to hang out with him in person. And yeah, like watching him ride, it was amazing. He's so good.
Yeah, dude, he's incredibly talented. And what I love about him too is like, obviously if you know him, he's building a skate park. Like, he just finished the
So
bowl, you know?
I was actually just out there right before I came up to Canada. One of the last things I wanted to do before we made the trip up was go out there to visit them. Like I said, before he came out to California, I hadn't met him before, and he came out with his friend Logan, who filmed that video. And man, those dudes are the best. Like it was such a good trip hanging out with those dudes. It was so much fun. And then from being out here, they started like just hanging out every day for a couple days, as you would. You get to know people, and they were telling me about the scene back in North Carolina and like showing me pictures of the bowl they're building and all that. And I was like, all right, well, before I head up to Canada, I need to come out there and hang out with you guys and see what you guys got going on. And so I did that. It's went out there for a profile thing, and it's going to be a profile video that comes out.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Probably in like June or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, Logan filmed the United thing in California, and then he filmed the profile thing I did when I was out there too. So it was super fun to film with him again too. Unfortunately, the only bummer about the whole thing was that Seamus broke his leg right before we were coming out.
Oh.
So I didn't actually get to see Seamus when we were out there.
Yeah.
We got in late at night, and he had surgery early the next morning, so it just didn't work out. But dude, the scene they have out there and Goat Pen, like the bowl they built, is so sick. It's fucking crazy. Like the fact that those dudes built that and like are like expanding on it is so cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And let me be frank here right now. If it's got goat in the name, I'm going to like it. But yeah, anyways, man,
Yeah.
After that terrible joke, I just want to say, dude, those guys are so dedicated. Those guys have been building that place for over a year. I've watched literally since the beginning of that. I've been watching. Yeah, man, it looks incredible. It looks like just the coolest spot to go and ride. I'm really excited to see where it goes outside of just the bowl, you know?
Oh, 100%. It's so cool. And like I said, the whole scene out there, like, is unreal. Everybody that we met out there we were only there for 4 days, but dude, it was the best time ever. Like everybody out there is so sick, so nice. And they all fucking rip too. It was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we're actually just watching a video behind us here of the United Curfew in California trip. I'm going to play through it again here in a minute. But this was last year. You, Mikey, Escamilla, and Seamus. And then you said his name was Logan, right? Who filmed it?
Yeah, Logan, who was actually he has a couple of guest clips in there, but yeah, he's the one who filmed the whole thing. And then, like I said, who I was kind of staying with the whole time I was out in North Carolina too.
Yeah, so there's some crazy clips in there of you guys riding, just, all these bowls, all these pools, and then I don't know what this is. It's about a minute in. I'll scroll back to it, but it looks like it's like some crazy DIY park in the middle of nowhere with like a shack off to the side.
That place is, I can't remember the exact like story of how the guy came to own the property, but the pool that we're actually riding in there, that's an actual real pool from like the 70s. And that's original to the property, and that shack is like the old house. But since then, this dude bought it and built essentially a skate park around the pool. Like Evergreen Skate Parks built one side of it, and then a local California company built the other side of it. But yeah, you're right. It's in the middle of the desert. It's super wild, really fun to ride. The newer section with that little capsule is really crazy to ride. It's so tight. But yeah, it's so fun.
Did anybody else hit that capsule, or is that all Logan?
It was all Logan, and the way he was riding it, like, it doesn't make sense.
No,
like,
it does not.
It's not like built. It's super shallow, so you can't like fully get into it. It's not the same top and bottom. Like the top of it, you can see the line in it is slightly shorter than the bottom. It's it's not an easy thing to ride by any means. And the way, like how he was riding it didn't make any sense to any of us that were there.
Yeah, dude, it looks insane. Like just that whole park in general is crazy. I know Mike had a photo, I think it is, of him doing an air to fakie on that
Yeah.
one feature, and it's just so cool, man. That's like an iconic photo in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no,
definitely.
and he does some crazy stuff in that pool in his
Absolutely.
in the most recent Caveman promo.
Yeah, dude, he's like, I don't know how old he is. I think he's in his 40s, and he's still doing Canadian nose picks on like actual
Yep.
pools. Like,
Yep.
dude, what are you doing? It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. It's really crazy, like to watch how good he is still. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He's such a legend in himself, you know? Like he is just so good on a bike. When did you first meet Rooftop?
Shit, I don't remember exactly. It was definitely through Jason Enzo. I can't remember the first time we would have like ridden together or hung out, but probably like 2015, 16, somewhere in there.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty crazy to think about. Obviously, Rooftop has played a big role in all of BMX, the inventor of the crooked grind, first guy to do the mega ramp, you know, backflipped a helicopter, the swing set grind.
Dude, that's so gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, the helicopter thing doesn't even make sense. I'm like, that literally like only makes sense in a video game, and this guy did it. Yeah.
No, that's like a straight up like fucking like stuntman thing. Like you're going to die if you like fall in there.
Yeah, when I was talking to him way back when I had him on the show, we talked about that, and he had said that, you know, like the roll-in that they had built for it, he basically was sitting like, you know, at this one point and he kept casing it. So he went 6 feet up and he's like literally flipping over the whole thing, and I was landing to flat, and like it was extremely hard to pick exactly where he could you know, set up for it perfectly. And just to even like, dude, it's funny to me that he's like, I have to, you know, I can't case it, I need to do this. I'm like, you're backflipping a helicopter. Like you can do whatever you need to do as long as you don't put your foot down. It counts to me, man. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so wild. Anyways, yeah, we'll move on from that. So let's talk a little bit you know, about 2020 and whatnot. I'm not sure when you started riding for Profile, so maybe you'll be able to correct me on this. Was it in 2020 that you kind of got picked up?
It was in 2020. Yep. Like
nice.
April-ish, I think. Yeah, I think it was in April 2020.
Dude, that's incredible. What do you got on your bike right now that's through Profile?
Hubs, stem, sprocket, cranks,
all the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the main things. Then everything else United stuff.
Nice. Are you riding a set of minis then?
No, the Elite hubs.
Ooh, that's what I'm riding. I like the Elites, man.
Dude, that back hub is my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, it's incredible, dude. I've been riding my Elites for close to 6 years at this point, and the only issues that I've had with them is like, you know, maybe once in a while I'll break a bolt because I ride pegs, and then you know I broke an aluminum axle after 5 years of having them. When I was doing handrails on these things, dude, like. They hold up. I know they say that you're not supposed to do pegs on them, but I don't want to be that guy. They do work.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah. No, But yeah, for me, that backup is my favorite thing. Like, I love that thing.
Yeah, the engagement is so perfect on it. It's hard to like want to switch to anything, right? Like I've considered you know, getting a free coaster wheel just for certain tricks and like certain clips that I want to get maybe. And it's honestly like, nah, I'm just going to keep the cassette. Like that engagement is so perfect and so good to have, like just through it anything. And it sounds good. And the way that it's machined and the way that it's built is so different from any other hub. You can literally like you can tell the quality and just how much work went into this just when you're holding it. Like,
oh yeah, 100%. Even just like the way it sounds, and you can feel the way that like clicks in there. You can feel that.
Yeah, dude, it's a great hub. I love my elites, and I definitely need to get some of those cranks soon. Those profile cranks are some of the best cranks in BMX. Like everybody
Yeah,
knows
it's funny
that.
because they were the first. Like, I had a pair when I was super young. I don't know if they were the first, but they were one of the first like aftermarket cranks that I ever bought too.
Dude, that's wild. So how did that all come about? Because obviously Profile has they've been like adding quite a few people recently. They've got Ratty Matty on there who we had on. I love him, man. He is so
Yeah.
hilarious. That dude is just a whole like, ball of energy. He's just
Oh
great.
yeah, 100%.
It's
Yeah. No, it's
really
super cool.
it's really difficult to be like, in a shitty mood when you're talking to Matty. Like the dude is
Yeah.
just so like uplifting.
No, yeah, you're 100% right.
But yeah, tell us about how you got hooked up with Profile.
It was a pretty like organic thing again too. Like I'd met Matt Copeland out in California a couple times. He was out there for some other profile related trip a couple years back, and we actually rode a couple pools together one day, and then a separate trip. Um, he same thing, like met up one day, rode a couple pools, and then just kind of always like kept in contact since then, and just kind of worked itself out.
Dude, that's awesome. It's really cool to see just how much they're like getting, obviously they've been a huge BMX brand for years, but I love to
Hmm.
see like just how many people they're supporting and how many people are repping Profile. Obviously, Profile is one of the best out there, so that's why, right? Like they're
Yeah,
literally all quality all the time, which is incredible.
yeah, no, totally. Like it's funny because like the parts that I ride of theirs are typically the parts that you wouldn't, when you swap out, you typically don't notice a difference. Like a stem. Like usually when you change stems, you're like, well, yeah, it holds my handlebars. Like it's doing its job. But when I put like their stuff on, like it did feel a little like it more sturdy. Like it sounds cheesy and like weird to explain, but like it definitely felt like it felt a difference.
No, absolutely, dude. I fully agree with you there. I had a Profile stem at one point, and it was seriously probably one of the best products on my bike for a long time. And
Yeah,
obviously,
like
it's Profile. They're great. Like it's too
yeah.
good.
But yeah, like the like I was saying before, that elite rear hub and the push stem are like my two favorite profile parts of my bike.
Hell yeah, man. Now let's talk a little bit about Timeless. So, first of
Yeah.
all, for anybody who's unaware, maybe you didn't listen to the beginning of this podcast, which if you didn't, go back, listen to the whole thing, please. Um, Timeless BMX, we saw, come out in 2020. It was the very end of 2020. We saw a brand new Canadian distro. And it's really cool to see that both yourself and Sean, I don't know how to pronounce his last name and I'm gonna mess it up, so it's just Sean. He you guys are the masterminds behind it, and you guys are working with some incredible companies, United, Relic, which I'm really excited
Hmm.
to see how they grow within the scene, Fast and Loose, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more to come. Anyways, where did you guys kind of get this idea? What led you to starting this, and how long did it take to kind of get this off the ground?
Well, I guess going back to the beginning for me, like me personally, I've always wanted to at some point do something in the BMX industry. What that was, I never knew for sure. Because I mean, like the obvious thing is like, oh, like start a parts company one day. The BMX does not need any more parts companies. Like there's so many good ones. Like it's the market's so saturated in that, and at one point I thought maybe doing some type of like clothing company, but still same thing. It never like really sparked a big interest in mine. Something I did always have in the back of my head though was that, like we were talking about earlier, when 10 pack shut down, 1664 shut down shortly after, there was a pretty big gap in the Canadian market for that type of thing. And what I mean by that is that, like, obviously the brands that were sold at those companies went to other distribution companies in Canada, but the things that 10 Pack and 1664 did for the scene back then, like 1664 had Street Justice, 10 Pack did the Metro Jams, and like countless other things, like did trips across the country, like so much stuff for the scene, that when both the companies shut down, there's a huge like gap in the market there. And coincidentally, like when those companies closed down, that's when I moved to the States. So it was something I always kept in the back of my head, but like living in California, it just wasn't really realistic for me to really like try and seriously do something. Fast forward a couple of years, and at the time too, I wasn't like riding for United or anything. So when I got on United, that also kind of like re-sparked all that, because when 1664 shut down, that was the last time United was sold in Canada. So now, like riding for United, and the fact that they're not available in Canada or even North America, I was like, it's like, it kind of made me want to like try and figure something out even more. And coincidentally, towards I can't remember when exactly I first started talking to Sean, but I think it was, just guessing, like beginning of 2000, or no, probably end of 2019, beginning of 2020. He was trying to get a hold of a United frame, and I was like, well, shit, like I honestly don't know where like the best place for you to get one from. He ended up tracking one down from Shad at Goods in Portland and getting one that way. And then we just like kind of kept talking about it, and he's like, man, like it sucks that it was such a pain in the ass to get this frame. Like it's too bad it's not available in Canada. And more or less was like, would you ever want to do anything distribution wise in Canada? And I was like, as soon as I saw that message, I was like, I called him. I was like, how serious are you about that? And he's like, well, like I'm down. Like, let's do it. And I was like for real, like if you want to do it, like let's do it. And then that's basically how it started. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Originally, because it wasn't, like I said, it's something I always had in the back of my head, but there was never like, I didn't have like a long-term plan, like set out like, okay, in whatever month it was in 2020, we're going to start a company. So like, I didn't have like money saved away or anything like that for it. It just happened really fast. And it originally, like, so after that conversation with Sean, I had a phone call with Ian at United, and like, because like I said, I always had it in the back of my head and thought that it would be like a good time in Canada to start something like that. But I also wanted to get somebody else's opinion, like an outside perspective, just to make sure I wasn't crazy. So I talked to Ian, and he's like, no, like, I love that idea. Like, I'll help you guys as much as I can. So thankfully he helped us out a lot, and he's been the best. Like anytime I have questions about stuff, he goes and be above and beyond like anything that I would have ever expected. So that being said, originally, because like I said, it wasn't a very thought out plan and it happened so quick. I originally just wanted to start with doing United, just to like get it started and like figure out how to do stuff, and like, because I've never had to like figure out how to ship stuff before, like anything like that. We didn't have a website. We had like literally had nothing. We just had like an idea that we were pretty sure was going to work itself out. So we did like committed to doing it, started figuring out how we were going to get United product. Coincidentally at the time, because like I said, I was in California, Ashley at Relic was living in California at the time too, before he moved back to England. And it was just timing wise when Relic was about to have their next Taiwan run done. And I just like, I think I just like, it was shortly after me and Sean like fully committed to like starting the company that like we hadn't like posted anything about it yet. Like nobody knew we were doing this yet, except for I just happened to be like riding with Ashley. And he's like, well, shit, if you guys want to get on like our next Taiwan order, then like we don't have distro in Canada. Like, you guys want to do Relic too? So I was like, at the time, that was scary because, like I said, we didn't have money or anything saved up. But I was like, fuck it. Like, we both agreed. We're like, this makes sense. We'll figure out how to make it work. So we did that. And then, yeah, that's how it started. And like I said, I still like wanted to keep it small because I definitely didn't want to get in over my head to end up in a situation where we have like more brands than we can handle, or like without having like knowing how to properly do stuff. So then we started with them, and then a little bit after that, Corey Walsh hit me up about doing fast and loose clothing. And same thing, I was like not hesitant because it's like them at all or anything. It was just like I was just afraid of taking on more than we could handle. But same thing, I was like, fuck it, like we'll figure it out. So we did that, and yeah, now we have the 3 brands, and there'll be more, but I just want to make sure we can properly handle what we have before we expand. Like, and that's part of why I moved back up to Canada is to be able to like help facilitate that and potentially look for like bigger space for us to move into in the next year.
Yeah, definitely. And dude, I'm really excited for you guys. I think it's really cool that all of this basically came from a text message, you know, like literally just, you know, well, what do we do about a distro in Canada? Like, well, why don't we just start one? You know, that's such a cool idea. And I love that you guys are taking the initiative to do that. And it's something that I think is kind of, in a way, a thankless job, because I think the average rider who doesn't really pay attention to the scene too much, just goes to the bike shop, buys their parts, doesn't even realize that there's a whole line of stuff that happens before they get that product, right? And being a distributor is one of those big, big, big roles. Like, such an important 100%. Job. Yeah. And I'm really excited for you guys, man. Honestly, I think you guys are the perfect guys for it. I'm really excited to see where it comes. But yeah, just to talk a little bit more about it, you know, why don't you tell us and tell the people who maybe aren't too aware about what the job of a distro is, fill us in on what that role is.
Well, I'm going to veer like in it's a little bit of a different direction, but I'll circle back to that because
yeah, of course.
This isn't necessarily the job of a distro, but what I want to do with our distro, and what I think, like when I brought up 10-pack and 1664 in the past, what they did for the scene was so much. And like, cause I was a kid in that era, and without them, like there wouldn't have been the Street Justices, there wouldn't have been Metro Jams. They did so much stuff for the scene that if we can somehow like slightly mirror what they did and just like facilitate that a little bit, that's really one of the main like reasons for doing Timeless is like to be able to like get jams going, like support kids in the scene, and just do something positive for BMX in Canada. Which, like, not that there isn't positive stuff going on right now, but I feel like it's just there's room for more, and that's really like where I want to like put our focus. I mean, and then so to your question, obviously a job of a distro is getting the product to the shops and that type of thing. But in my opinion, from when I was growing up and seeing what 10-pack and 1664 did, I think it goes a little bit beyond that in terms of like servicing the scene more and like building like a foundation for like kids to have something. And I mean, obviously those companies did so much and those are really big shoes to fill. And I'm not by any means saying that we're going to recreate that, but that's, if we can head in that direction at all, that's really what I want to do.
Absolutely, man. And I know that you guys will be able to really do a lot for the scene, right? And that's something that I care about so much, is just the community in general, because without the community, BMX is nothing, right? Like, yeah, it's still great if you're just riding by yourself, but dude, you can't tell me that you would prefer to go ride by yourself than go to a jam that's been sponsored by a distro, right? Like, just any of that stuff, like, it helps bring people in, it helps people meet each other, it helps build the companies outside of that as well, right? Like,
100%.
it's a big role to fill, and I'm really, really excited for you guys. And I love the fact that you guys are current riders who are still riding and will still be riding in 10, 20 years, right? You guys are lifers.
Yeah, I mean,
that's for sure.
That's the thing, and that's like why, and like, I mean, I wanted to do it for a number of reasons, but like I said, I wanted to do something for the scene and just be able to like leave a positive impact on like Canadian BMX. And but also, like, I fucking love it. Like like BMX is still my favorite thing, and like it's such a cool thing, and I've gotten so many positive experiences out of it that if we can like help facilitate that for other kids just getting into it, or maybe even like a rider who's already into it, if we can help them grow in a certain way, then that is super exciting to me, and I love that.
Absolutely, man. I'm really, really stoked for you guys, honestly. And
No, I appreciate it.
dude, like, even just the stuff that you guys have been getting in is really, really good. Obviously, Relic is a newer company, but I fully believe that they'll be around in 10 years. Like, even just
100%.
the look of the hubs. I haven't been able to hold any of their products, but like just the look of the hubs and whatnot, they look very well made. The bars look incredible. Honestly, I'll probably be making an order for a new set of bars pretty soon. So yeah,
No, their stuff's awesome.
yeah, I love it, man. It's got some great history to it, obviously, as well. And then United is like, it's a big brand. It's a big responsibility to take on. So props to you guys, man. And obviously,
Thank you, appreciate it.
what I love about distros too is that in like the starting steps of distros, you can kind of be, and like, don't take this the wrong way, but things can be a little bit more lax than like owning a shop, right? Because if you own a
100%.
storefront shop, you first of all have to go find a location, build the location up, get the community out there to like, support you and all this stuff. And you got to deal with customers all day. And when you're not, like, this is something that I've just seen from other shops, is like, even when the doors are closed, you're still there. You're still working all night. And it's not to say that you guys aren't doing that. I'm sure you guys are. However, there's a few different elements that are kind of taken away, right? Obviously, you guys don't have to deal with too many like customers, because it's mainly just bike shops, right? Like, you're a distro. You deal with all the shops and you
100%.
get the product to the shops. And then on top of that too, like, there's been a few distros that have literally started in the living room of their house, like, it's just kind of the way that it works. And it's really cool to see that that's a possibility. So, just because you guys are starting out, I'm really interested on what these first stepping stones are like. Where are you guys at the moment, and where are you hoping to be in a few years?
Well, like I said, one of the main reasons of like me moving back was just to be able to be more hands-on for the summertime. And the main focus of that is like just being able to go to skate parks in Canada, like do jams and things like that, just get people stoked in general. Obviously also like just to help out with the shipping of stuff going in and out too, because prior to me being in Canada, it was just Sean, who was the only one physically shipping stuff. And like I said, for us to grow, we're going to need to potentially move into a bigger space. So ideally by the end of this year, beginning of next year, we'll have something like that sorted out, so can then facilitate taking on more brands and becoming a bigger company.
Dude, I'm really excited for that. It's really cool. Like, obviously, you know, I'm in Kitchener, so that's where rider distribution is. It's 20 minutes from my house. And to kind of see where he started, right? Like, it literally started with him in his garage, and now like he's got this big warehouse in town, and it's really cool. Like, I think you guys will be able to honestly surpass that, like, which I'm really excited for, you know? It's a
I
big role.
really appreciate that, and like it's one of those things where it's like it's so exciting, but like can be so like scary at the same time, because the only thing that you're because what you were saying before is totally right, where like the shops have a way more involved like one-on-one like customer care experience. The and like that's a huge undertaking all in itself, like even maintaining like your retail space and all that type of stuff. But like I was saying, and for us to grow and like trying to find a bigger space, it's like even for the orders we've made so far, like when we started, like I remember the first complete bike order that we made when we like started going through it, because we tried to make like a pretty modest order just to start, because like this we had to make that order so long ago that we had like just very recently decided to like actually do the company and that type of thing. When we made that order and the like dollar amount that it added up to, I was like, holy fuck, like
Yeah.
how are we gonna do this? And it's like it's scary but exciting, and it's like it's a lot of figuring stuff out, but it's cool, and I'm excited to see where it ends up going.
Yeah, man, and that's the part of distros that people don't really get to see very often, is the fact that you know, you're not only just bringing in United for the local shop an hour away from here, you're bringing it in for literally every shop in Canada that's hooked up with you guys and wants to work with you. So the amount that it costs you guys to bring in stuff, and the amount of product that you guys are going to be getting in, and just the amount of shipping that you guys are going to be dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, man. It's crazy. Like, you know, there was a delay getting the caveman frames, and that is not your fault at all. It was literally like they're a, you know, very specialty
that
frame.
was like a 3 month delay. And that's actually something I was going to bring up later, but that's like what's going on in Taiwan right now is so fucked that like so yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things, like there's literally nothing anybody can do about it, and it is what it is, and eventually, like the stuff will get here. But I mean, like your frame, for example, like that was supposed to be in like legitimately 3 months before it was, but then also for some reason that shipment coming to us got held up in customs, and it took forever for it to actually physically get to like our location in BC too. So.
Yeah, honestly,
that...
I think when it comes to shipping, 2020, 2021 is definitely not the year. Like, it's been rough, dude. I've, you know, I deal with like stuff through my little online store that I have for merch and whatnot. And like, I always feel so bad because if somebody from the States orders something, like there's literally a dude who I love, man. This guy is incredible. He's always supporting, and he picked up like, you know, a merch pack from me last year, and it took 3 months to get from my house in Kitchener to his place in Minnesota. I'm like, why?
That's crazy.
Why? And then it's like, you know, I'm looking at all the tracking, right? Like I can see that it's like stuck at customs. It's not going through. And then I look at the guy in the UK who's also ordered stuff on the same day. And guess what? That stuff was there 2 weeks later. I'm like, it makes zero sense. It's
no, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it's so difficult, and it's a lot to deal with. So props to you guys, man. It's a tough job, and for people who don't like have to deal with shipping stuff, even just me shipping out like, you know, 40, 60 different letters at a time just with stickers in them. Oh my God, dude, it takes hours. Like it's something that I have a lot of respect for. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of you know, a lot of work, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, and like I said, like because I just recently got back to Canada, and prior to me being here, or I mean, not even me yet, but like it's been Sean handling all that stuff. So shout out to him for keep holding that down while I was away.
Absolutely, man. And obviously, I think we kind of talked about this before the show started, but this really started to happen, and you guys had started pushing Timeless and picking up United and, really fulfilling this role as a distributor when the Caveman frame came out, because it is such a limited run. And if I'm correct, there was 75 of each color made. I don't know if that's correct.
25 in total.
Whoa, are you kidding me?
Yep.
Dude, I wish I would have known that. That thing would have been sitting on the wall. I'm like, I'm an idiot. I'm riding this. This needs to sit on the wall in perfect condition.
So yeah, so that like as we were talking about briefly before, that's why. So before that they were available, we had already decided to do Timeless. We'd already made our Relic order. We were figuring out how we were going to get the United stuff and all that. We were like fully committed at that point. The only thing we weren't sure on is when we were going to like publicly launch. And we were kind of planning on waiting until like the end of the year, possibly 2021. But when the Caveman frames were coming up for the pre-order, that I was like, shit, like, I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a good amount of people in Canada who are going to be interested in these. We might as well just do it now just to see like what the response is. So that was like the main catalyst for us like launching when we did. Like, and I mean, it wasn't even like a full, like real proper launch. And when I say that, I just mean like we like got the Instagram account going and like started like posting about the Caveman frames and other United stuff and all that. And then yeah, of the ones that were made, 7 or 8 of them went to Canada.
Dude, I was going to say, I've received so many messages just from different people within Canada that also have, a Caveman frame. So that's why I thought it was 75, because I think they did 75 of the original one in that nice blue color.
I think so too.
Yeah, and dude, to hear that there was 25 of each, I'm like, God damn, dude! If Harvester
No, not of each, in total.
Oh my God, dude, that's crazy. That is so wild. I don't know why, but I'm one of those guys that I love to collect shit. Like I have, so many different vinyl records over there just from bands that I love, including test presses where like that doesn't go to the market. That is what the band will receive. And then, they'll decide if it's perfect. And I have a couple of those. I've got Stu Johnson's VX from Anthem 2. I've got all this stuff. No, I'm like, dude,
that's awesome.
I might have to pick up another one just to keep it in the box because I like collecting stuff. But I also don't want to take away from someone who's going to love that frame because, dude, I'll be honest, I've been doing some frame slides on this thing and it is awesome.
Yeah, I've ridden like Mike's a little bit too. It's so fun to mess around on the bash guard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great geometry too. I wasn't really too sure. I thought it was going to be really similar to my cult frame that I had beforehand. And it's a little different. This is more of like a park geometry, but dude, it feels great. Like I really, really like it.
Yeah, it's like a pretty well, like kind of overall like frame geometry. Like it's not good. It doesn't have a crazy short back end. It's like, it's not really super specific. It's a good all-arounder.
Dude, that's so crazy. Now that I know that there's only 25 in total made, I was going to ask you why you aren't on one. Like, that's why.
Yeah. And also I can't, like, I need a little bit longer top too, but I said, I've ridden Mike's around a bunch and it's fun, but yeah, that's the main reason.
Yeah, I feel like you're probably a tall dude. I don't normally ask that, but you're probably like 6 foot, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like a couple inches under 6 foot, and this is a little small, but I don't mind it. Like, it feels great so far.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hell yeah, man. So, dude, thank you for starting Timeless so that I get my hands on this frame. I've wanted one since they did the originals in 2016. So,
Oh, no way.
yeah, dude, that was it, right? Like my cult frame was going strong. I've got a really good relationship with Robbo, and like I'm a cult fan till the end, right?
Yeah.
2010 till the end. And it was one of those things that like I also felt a little bad buying a frame from a different company because I support him so much. But it is like,
100%.
dude, it's, I wanted this frame since it came out, so I had to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I love it. All
Yeah, that's
right.
awesome.
Yeah, so with Timeless, obviously we talked quite a bit about that a second ago. If there's anything that you really want to plug about them right now, let's hear it, man. Like honestly, I'm really hoping for the best for you guys.
Oh man, I appreciate that so much. I wouldn't say there's necessarily anything I want to plug, but I would like to say thank you to all the shops that we work with currently. Like, again, we intended on like not intentionally starting small, but we wanted to really make sure we were as prepared as possible before we tried to like get in over our heads. So we didn't go too crazy hard, like trying to push ourselves on anybody. So all the shops we work with, it came about very organically, and we're very thankful for that people were willing to support us and like take a chance on a new distribution company. And that, so just thank you to everybody who's reached out to us and currently works with us. We really appreciate it and look forward to doing more in the future.
Honestly, man, that's awesome. I love it. And I'm really excited. I think that you guys will be picking up quite a few great brands in the near future, I'm sure. Once you guys are like 100% in motion and ready and, everything's really figured out, like I'm really excited. Obviously, you guys have only been around for, not even 6 months at this point. So it's really cool to see.
No.
Like,
I know that it's really, and that's what I mean. Like, I legitimately mean it. Like, thank you to like, not even just the shops. I mean, shops, of course, that's a huge thing, but everybody who's like said anything positive about us and the company, that means a lot. And thank you, each and every one of you.
Absolutely, man. So there was a few other questions that I wanted to ask here today. So when you were in California, obviously, one of the last weeks that you were there, you actually got to go and ride Tony Hawk's warehouse. And dude, I'm a huge Tony Hawk fan. I have been since, my birth, essentially. My dad's a skater. I've seen all that stuff. I've owned all the games. I've literally got a Tony Hawk and Rick Thorne print across the room from me right now.
Oh, you have one of those?
Yes,
Nice.
I do. And dude, it's pretty crazy to see that you were actually riding that warehouse. So what's it like riding with him, man? Like obviously, his energy through its skateboarding translates so well into BMX as well.
Well, Tony wasn't actually there the day that I was there.
Okay, never mind.
It was a pretty, I mean, not it wasn't super sick going there, but I went with Rick and Michael Laren, another BMX dude, was there. So it was more or less like a BMX session. Well, I mean, not necessarily, I guess. Steve Caballero was there.
Nice.
With another skater that I can't remember the name. So it was like, there was only like 5 of us there. It was super fun though. That was like really the first time I've ridden a like real proper vert ramp like that, which that's a crazy experience all in itself. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's Tony's ramp and like the legacy and history behind it, it's pretty surreal. Like to like first drop in, it seems unreal.
Dude, not only that, but you also did a lip slide on this ridiculous vert wall thing. Like,
So
I'm gonna pull that up.
So that stuff, I didn't even know that section of the park or the warehouse was there. Like, because
Really?
I thought that there was only the vert ramp. I had no idea that there was the other stuff behind it. But yeah, there's that vert wall thing, or the one you're talking about. Then there's another, well, I guess it's a vert wall also, but it's like a transition that continues up the actual wall of the building. And then just like some other little ramps and stuff back there too. But yeah, that thing you're talking about is, again, like that's kind of my favorite type of stuff to ride, like weird tight transitions, because that that thing is the like height of the vert ramp, which is like 13. It's
ish feet. Yeah.
it's a little bit over 13. I don't remember
Whoa.
exactly. I think it's like 13. I don't think it's 13 and a half. I feel like it's somewhere in between 13 and 13 and a half. But yeah, so it's like the height of the vert ramp, but with way more vert on it, obviously.
Absolutely, man. I gotta say, look at that table, dude. It is so perfect. I don't know how well you can see it, but dude, it's like the perfect like head tuck and everything. Oh man, that looks good.
Oh, thanks, man.
I love it. And then this X up air is so wild. I can't even imagine being the dude with the camera on a ladder on top of a 14 high ramp. Just like, yep, I'm gonna hang over here.
Yeah, my friend Jeff shot that, and he shot a couple photos of Michael too, also in like crazy positions that I was like, dude, what you're doing on the ladder right now is way scarier than like riding the ramp.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, that's so crazy, man. It's sick to hear that you guys actually like got to ride there, and I'm sure we're gonna get some comments in here, so I'm gonna ask it right now. Did you do a half cab in front of Steve Cab?
No, I did not. He didn't stay there that long, and yeah, no, nothing too exciting, but that would have been the perfect opportunity to do that.
Yeah, did the old half bunny hop. I had to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, moving on from that, you are part of a dying breed, and that dying breed is glove riders. So, when it comes to riding with gloves, who makes the best riding gloves?
Well, fortunately, because I only ride with gloves because my hands sweat so fucking much, and I've like a couple times have tried to not ride with them. And there was one time I remember specifically, I was like, I'm really going to make an effort to just get used to riding without gloves. And I did a tabletop, and my fucking like top hand flew off while I was doing a tabletop, which is like the worst like situation to be in. And like luckily I was able to like, I think grab the crossbar and like
Turn
not
back,
eat
yeah.
shit. But I was like, why am I even trying to do this? Like, I just have to accept that I always will ride with gloves. So I've just always done it since then. Luckily, through United, I can get the hookup on the Bicycle Union gloves, which I've been loving those since then. So that's pretty much all I ride now.
Dude, that's awesome, though. Honestly, when we had Mike Aiken on the show, we talked about his signature glove through Odyssey, especially because you don't really see him riding with gloves very often. But he had mentioned, for him, as someone who became kind of partially paralyzed, right? Like, using gloves kind of allowed a better grip. And he actually really, really enjoyed using those while he was relearning. But, dude, I'm also bad for that, where my hands sweat like crazy. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm at the local park and it's in the middle of the summer, if I'm riding street, you will 100% see me run over to like a patch of dirt and just like throw my hands in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've tried all of the like remedies like that, and it just like it didn't work for me. And like I said, after that one time, I was like, fuck it. Like, why am I even trying to stop this? Like, this is just what I have to do.
Dude, it works well for you. You pull it off really well. There are still a few people that do
that
it.
Because I still feel like I don't when I'm doing it, but it's like I hate the fact that it's something that I have to do, but it is what it is. Like it's at the end of the day, who cares?
Another dying breed that you actually jumped ship a few years ago is brakes, but they are kind of making a comeback. Mm-hmm. I wanted to know how long did
100%.
you ride? How long did you ride a straight cable for? And like, why did you switch? And are you ever considering coming back to the dark side of riding brakes?
Definitely considering it, and actually, what's making it slightly more enticing is that Relic is coming out with a chrome rim in their next parts run. So, and not only a chrome rim, but also brakes as well. So
nice. I'm excited to see that.
When that stuff comes out, I might switch. And also to the United frame I ride, the brakes just moved from the chain stay to the seat stay, which I've always liked brakes on the bottom more anyways. So there's a lot of things that might persuade me to switch back over. But I also do really like the simplicity of not having them on the bike. And just having to deal with, like, I hate removable brake mounts on frames. And that was actually part of what made me take them off in the first place. But I think the last time I had them on my bike would have been 2014 or the very beginning in 2015.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm excited, man. I'm really excited to see you come back to riding brakes if you do. And I think that, like, with your style and the way that you ride, just adding in those few extra brake tricks, man, I'm like, the possibilities are endless. You know, I'm really excited for it.
I still, like, always, because a decent amount of my friends ride brakes, and I'll always, usually, like, every once in a while, get on their bike and just make sure I can still do a Fufanu, because that's really the only thing I want to make sure I maintain.
Yeah.
That and, like, I haven't done a Hurricane in forever, but I feel like I could get those back if the brakes were on my own bike. Because like a Fufanu, like it still feels weird. Like I'm always weird about riding other people's bikes in general. But the Fufanu I can always figure out. But more than that, it feels a little weird on somebody else's.
Yeah, definitely, man. I can see that. I'm the same way. I can't ride someone else's bike. If I hop on someone else's bike and, like, we're out for an actual session, I hop back on mine and, like, things have just changed way too much. I have a hard time with that. I don't know why, but that's just me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, like I was saying, really excited for that. I'm actually running 2 brakes with 1 lever on my setup, which is ridiculous. Like,
oh, no way.
Yeah, I love it, dude. It works really well with the caveman frame. I have probably the weirdest bike in all of Ontario. Like, caveman
That's
frame
sick.
with the bash guard and 2 brakes with 1 lever. It's very mid school or like late 90s feel, you know?
I'm impressed you're able to find a pair of forks with brake mounts on them.
Odyssey F25s. I almost called them the
Nice.
F32s. I wanted those, but they didn't have them. But yeah, I like them, man. It's pretty great. I like the feel of it. I've been learning a lot of front brake moves recently. Anyways, I asked this to Dean when we had him on the show. What is your craziest pool story? Obviously, you know, you're riding pools. Sometimes it can get a little sketchy. You're sneaking in and out of spots. You're trying to be, like, you know, on top of your game so you don't get caught. And even, like, riding certain DIY spots. Like, I was out last week and it was the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, even some street spots are the same too, with, like, security and stuff. Well, there's one pool that was, like, a super, like, well-known pool that'd been going forever. And we'd ridden it a bunch. It was like a city type property. So it wasn't even like a private residential, like, backyard pool or anything. It was a huge, like, almost like Olympic sized pool on this old, like, city property. And it had been, like I said, it was a popular spot. People have been going there riding, skating forever. And there was, like, a probably 10 or 12 foot chain link fence around the property. And people would always cut holes in the fence. And that's really, like, what the owners of the property cared about more than people riding the actual pool.
Right.
So we were there one afternoon and we were in the pool and this dude shows up and he's fucking pissed. And he's, like, yelling at us to get out. And I guess they had just fixed a hole in the fence and somebody had recently cut it. But, like, we always just climbed over because it wasn't that hard. So the dude's, like, yelling at us and he thought that we had, like, either reopened the hole in the fence or cut a new one or something. Cause and we told him we didn't, and he wouldn't believe that we got in the pool and over the fence with our bikes and, like, whatever other shit we had with us. And we're like, no, we didn't do it. And he's like, okay, well, we'll see how you get out of the pool then. And we're like, okay, like, watch us. Like,
yeah.
This is how we get out. So we, like, did the usual, like, one person climbs up, and goes over. One person sits on the top, like pass everything over till we're all out. And he was like, you could tell he was like kind of confused and surprised, like watching us do this. And then we didn't know, but he had called the cops.
Oh, rough.
And so by the time we actually got like out and into like the parking lot, the cops were there. Anyways, when we're out in the parking lot, that employee is on the phone with his boss, and his boss is like pissed just because of what I was saying before, like people cutting holes in the fence and all that. And the cop was being super chill, which we thought was like going to work out well for us. But since it's ultimately up to the owner of the property, like what they want to do, the dude on the phone who was super mad was essentially like, fuck those guys, like do whatever like the maximum is. So there was 3 of us. It was me, Jason Enns, and Fernando, this guy we were filming with at the time. All 3 of us got trespassing tickets.
Oof. Which
is a misdemeanor. And me, like, none of us really realized the severity of that at the time. So we more or less thought it would be like a speeding ticket type thing where you just like pay a fine or whatever.
Yeah.
Fernando was from Spain, so he was going to be leaving soon. So the cop gave him a different court date, and me and Jason had the same court date. But you know that like carbon copy paper, like where you get like a speeding ticket, how they'll like you get like 2 copies and they give you the bottom one usually.
Yeah.
So how I got mine, I believe our court dates were, it was either September 9th or 6th, one of the two. But the way my like piece of paper, the way it transferred, I thought it said September 11th. So, and this was like in June, so our court dates weren't for like months still. So it was kind of one of those things that like after the time, just kind of more or less like forgot about for a little bit.
Yeah.
And September comes, and I knew like we had this court date, and my whole time, which is stupid on my part, I was thinking it was September 11th. I could have easily just like asked Jason like what his date was and stuff, and whatever, but I didn't. So I was actually ended up being in Canada visiting my family during our court date. So I obviously missed the court date, and Jason didn't. So he texted me from the like courthouse and was like, hey, like what time's your thing? And I was like, what are you talking about? I thought it was like in a couple days. And I was then figured out what had happened. I was like, shit, well, fuck, I'm missing the court date. I'm in Canada. Like, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Just like, let me know how it goes. And he texted me shortly after and was like, yeah, this is a way bigger deal than we thought. Like, it ended up being like kind of bad. And he was like, definitely like get a lawyer when you come back. So when I got back to the country, I pretty much like, I think I got in on the weekend, and like the first like weekday I went to the courthouse, and they're like, oh yeah, you have a bench warrant out for you. And I was like, fucking cool, holy shit, didn't know that. So I was like, okay, what do I do? And they're like, okay, well, you can have to reschedule your court date. And I was like, okay, when? And they're like, it was weird because they just told me I had a bench warrant, which I mean, I guess isn't that gnarly of a thing, but when you hear that, you're like, fuck, like, am I getting arrested right now? And so they basically let me choose when I wanted to come back. And I ended up like just randomly picking Wednesday the next week. So from when I left the courthouse that day, I just like looked up like a criminal lawyer in the area that I was in, went over, talked to them, and ended up like having them take care of my case. And it took like almost a full year from that day to get that thing to go away. And what I ended up having to do is like, I don't know how this like became such a thing, but my lawyer had to go to court for me like 5 different times, and then
Whoa.
ended up reaching a deal with the DA that if I took this course called the DEJ, which is like, I think something like Department Educational Justice, something along those lines.
Yep.
It was like a 6-hour course you had to take on a Saturday and cost like $300. That if I took it, they would dismiss the case. So I was like, fuck it. Like, yeah, sure. Like anything to make this go away at this point. So I signed up for that course. And because trespassing is such like a weird, like thing that, they lump it in with, because trespassing is technically a property violation, but there's so few cases of that. They lump it in with thefts also.
Probably like breaking and entering as well, right? Like anything kind of like that,
Yeah.
they lump it all together.
Yeah, exactly. So the course I had to take was dealing with people who got charges related to theft and property violations. So I go to the place I need to take the course at, and it was super early on a Saturday morning, and we like sit around a round table, and it's like this dude who's like an ex-gang member who's like the leader of the group, who's like our person that is going to decide if we pass the course or not. And it starts off with like everybody going around the table saying why they were there and like what they did to put themselves in this situation, basically. Dude, the fucking first person who spoke was this like middle-aged woman who was a getaway driver for a Walmart heist and was high on meth at the time. Yeah. So, yeah, it was insane. So I'm like
Holy
sitting there, and
shit.
just by chance, I was like towards the end of like the table. Dude, it got even crazier from there. Like, so how it went is like you would say what you did and if and what drugs you were on at the time. So she was fucking like a getaway driver and was high on meth.
Yeah.
And then this other dude, him and his friends got all, I don't even know, can't remember what he said drugs they were on, but they basically robbed a Domino's pizza delivery man. They ordered like a shitload of pizza and wings and like whatever else you can get from Domino's, but ordered it to the apartment next door from theirs, waited for the dude to show up, robbed him at gunpoint, took the food into their apartment, which was literally next door. And then the cops came and knocked on the door like a little bit after. And we're like, you guys like robbed this guy? And they like said no as they were eating the food. So they got like busted, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
And like as like it was going around the table, it like just kept getting crazier. And I was like, what the fuck? Like by the time it gets to me, I'm like, I'm gonna sound like such a loser that I didn't even fucking do anything cool like that. And so by the time it was my turn, I was like, I think I'm the only person here that didn't like steal anything. And the guy was like, well, what did you do? I was like, I was riding a bicycle in an empty swimming pool. And everybody started laughing. And he was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, and told him the deal. And he's like, man, I'm sorry you're here. Like,
yeah,
it sucks. Yeah. And then just moved on. Like, that was
dude. That's incredible. I like how everyone starts laughing and like, ah, you fucking nerd. You didn't even steal anything.
Exactly. That's exactly how it felt. I was like, because it started so gnarly and then just got progressively crazier. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude, that is so crazy. Oh my God. Now, did they have any weird things with that? Because obviously it happened in the States and you're a Canadian citizen. So like, I don't know how that plays out. Like you think maybe it would be weird. Like, obviously you're living in the States as well. So like, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely worried about that. And especially right at the time, because I was like I said, I was in Canada when I missed my court date. So I was worried about like there being an issue when I flew back and that type of thing. But I mean, I don't know if I got lucky or what, but yeah, it was never like, thankfully nothing ever came of that. And then, but like I said, after doing that course on the Saturday, it got dismissed anyways. So it was just a really long process to get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, that sounds crazy, dude. So I've got one question from me here, and then the rest are going to be fan questions, and then we got one more from me at the end.
Sure.
Yeah. So my last question for you here is, what I love about your riding, Andrew, is just the simplicity matched with style. Those two things are what kind of gave me the love for Stu's videos, Anthem, like those Anthem series videos. And then, I've always just felt that style will be superior when it comes to the world of BMX. Like you look at riders like Chase Hawk, who's, played a very big role in that for years. And then even, the spotlight kind of being pointed towards Corey and Larry and, Jason Watts and all those other dudes who are really just like style heavy riders. I think it's really cool that we have those kind of like, things right now and that it's being heavily promoted the way that it has been.
Yeah, 100%.
Your riding, I find, is very similar, right? Like your whole idea is to master 6-7 tricks for video parts and just be able to do them with so much style, so flawlessly, and be able to make such a great video with those, which I think can be more challenging than going out and doing a full video part with like 80 different tricks or whatever, like there's a lot that goes into that as well. However, just being able to make those tricks super stylish and not boring after you've just seen a trick very similar 20 seconds earlier can be pretty challenging. Anyways, you are actually a pretty talented rider. You're able to do tail whips. You're able to do all these other tricks, and you just kind of choose not to at least show the public that. What kind of led you to that, and why do you focus so solely on style?
It's kind of something I mentioned earlier, but it's because what I like, and it's like every once in a while I will like, it's more or less as a joke, like do a tail whip or something, but I personally don't, it's not that fun for me. And just in terms of, I guess, why like I've never like put one in a video or anything, it's just because the type of riders I looked up to and the video parts that I like the most, the more simplistic stuff is what I was always drawn to. But I mean, that, like I said, like I did learn like tail whips and stuff too when I was way younger, and I'm not good at them by any means, but I can still do them. But doing a tail whip doesn't feel the same way as doing a turn down does to me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'd much rather just do the things that I like to do and figure out a new spot to do them or a different way to do them, just to like make that as a new thing instead of trying to learn something new all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think that's really cool. Honestly, I think that style has really been very prominent in the last few years, and I'm really excited to see where it goes, right? Like there was
100%.
There was a bit of a moment there where things were kind of looking a little bleak on that end of the spectrum for BMX, right? Like there just really wasn't too much going on for stylish riders. They weren't really getting promoted as often, and I think it's really cool that we're kind of seeing it come full circle, and that has become a really big part again,
No, totally. Yeah, 100%. There's definitely that the spotlight is kind of being shone on that type of riding right now, which is really cool. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of that, and it's what I like to see. So it's nice that that is being broadcast a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to some of these fan questions. So these are all sent in from listeners of the show, people who follow you on Instagram, and people who just want to ask you a question, my man. So let's start out with JFK BMX. How does it feel knowing scooter kids fear you in, and I'm going to pronounce this so wrong, Pennington when we ride? Does that make sense? Did I pronounce it right?
Oh, that's the Penticton.
There we go.
Park here in BC. I mean, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a true statement, but when prior to me moving to California, Penticton was one of the local parks that I rode the most because I was living in Kelowna at the time, and Penticton's like basically the next big city south,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a super sick skate park. And for whatever reason, there was like a window of time. I don't know if it was like a month or just a couple of weeks or something, where whenever I go there, there'd just be some weird collision with like a kid that usually was on a scooter. Not like it was just like a really weird coincidence.
Yeah, it just happens, man.
Just happened. Yeah. But it was not like, thankfully, like nobody ever got hurt or anything. And the way it happened was more like comical than anything. And it was just, one of those things. And then it kind of became a joke for a little bit.
Yeah, I love it, man. It happens.
Yeah.
Certain parks are just like, certain parks are great, but just the layout is really bad for multiple riders, especially people who don't really know any better yet. And that's the thing where like, there's so many dudes out there that give scooter kids flack about, being on a scooter and, oh, you guys are constantly getting in the way. But it's like, just teach them. Just tell them, hey, when someone's riding, don't drop in. And that's typically going to do the job.
100%. And that's like the part of like, to me, it's like whether you're on a skateboard, BMX, mountain bike, like whatever you're doing, the vehicle you're on isn't going to dictate if you have park etiquette or not.
Yeah.
You could be on a fucking like surfboard trying to ride a bowl. If you are going to be in somebody's way or not be in somebody's way, if you're like respectful and like pay attention to what's going on, it's like if you're not an idiot, who cares what you're on? Just pay attention and be respectful to everybody else that's there.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. This next one comes in from Deason, who says, what was it like growing up with Jordan Hango?
It was awesome. I mean, that's the thing that I don't think a lot of people know either, is that he was from Castlegar, which is the next town over from Nelson, but Nelson had the indoor park, which was the only skate park like in the vicinity at the time. So it was me and him when I was saying like when Rob Siggety was like there at the time, and that older generation of riders, me and Jordan were the two young kids at the park. So it was just me and him. And then once the older people stopped riding, it was just me and him. And then he graduated like from high school. He was a year older than me, so he was able to leave town before I did. So he moved to Vancouver, and then I was just in Nelson for a little bit. But yeah, we grew up riding together for a good amount of years, which was awesome. It was really cool to be able, because we like learned so much at the same time, and just grew up riding together. It was awesome.
Definitely, man. He's so good on a bike. It's ridiculous, eh? Like the guy is so talented.
He's been so good for so long too.
Yeah.
That it's crazy. Like I remember, like even when we were young, he was so fucking good that it's finally like people are aware of that.
Yeah, definitely, man. Alrighty, what else we got here? So this one comes in from Slad. I'm gonna probably pronounce that wrong. I think it's Slad, and he says, it's Slad _. He says, "What are you looking forward to most about moving back to Canada, and what are you gonna miss about LA on and off the bike?"
That is a hard question. Well, I'm really, really excited to be up in Canada for the summer. Like I miss the parks up here, and since I've been up here last, there's already like a ton of new parks built that look super good. So I'm excited to finally be able to check those out. And just like I was mentioning before with Timeless, like just be able to like actually start doing stuff with that and hopefully get people more excited. Definitely going to miss LA though. Just mostly my friends back there. We had a super, super good group of friends like to hang out with on and off the bike. And that was the hardest part about choosing to move back up here for sure.
Definitely, man. And I think it's, you got to miss the weather too. I'm one of those Canadians that, dude, I would be fully okay with just leaving for the whole winter. I hate winter,
Yeah,
man. I can't.
well, like the ideal scenario is that hopefully we can work it out where, like I definitely want to be up here for the summers, and depending on what we got going on with Timeless at the time, like be here when I need to be, but still be able to make a LA, like California, couple month trip each winter. That's the ideal scenario at this point, anyways.
Definitely, man. I'm excited to see what happens, and hopefully you can pull that off. That sounds like the dream right there, man.
Yeah, 100%. I hope I can do it too.
Yeah, and was there anything off the bike that you're really gonna miss about California that you just don't get in Canada?
To be honest, I don't think so. Aside from my friends, like I said, it's super
Mm-hmm.
good group of dudes that like for riding and not riding, and it worked itself out within the last couple of years I was there that we had a really good group like in our neighborhood that rode and also like to hang out with not riding too. So, but I mean, that being said, I do still have friends up here before from when I lived here previously and stuff too. So it'll just be different. But yeah, I mean, I think just the people is the most thing, or the thing that I'll miss the most.
Definitely, man. And Wayland_Dix asks, what was it like riding in Nelson? And we kind of covered a good portion of that at the beginning of the show. However, I wanted to ask, have you hit up the new, is it new? But the new outdoor park. I don't know if it's new. It looks new in Nelson.
Yeah, I've ridden it a good amount. That's super fun, but also, so the indoor park that I was talking about previously at the beginning too, how I said it used to be really good, and then like there's a very drastic decline. They had just, I don't know, I think it was a winter of 2019, they completely redid the indoor park, and it actually looks
wild.
pretty good now. So
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in person yet, but it's a definite improvement on what it was before, which is obviously a bonus. So I'm excited to actually ride that and check that out too. But yeah, the outdoor concrete park is super sick. And then even just like in the surrounding areas from Nelson, if you within like an hour radius, you could probably hit at least 5 new parks now too that are all pretty good.
Dude, that's exciting. I'm really hyped for you. I'm really excited to see all the clips that you'll be posting at these awesome parks in the summer.
Kelowna, like the Okanagan area where Timeless is based out of, there's a ton of new parks over there also that I've ridden a bunch, like that Penticton one we were talking about, but there's also a bunch new ones in that area too that I'm really excited to go and see. And also just because like a lot of people don't know that stuff's there. A lot of people when they visit BC just stay in Vancouver, which I totally understand. Vancouver has so much good stuff. But like the Okanagan and the Kootenay area where Nelson is, also there's a ton of really cool stuff over there too that I'm excited to kind of be able to show people too.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it sounds like you're going to have a great summer. And this last fan question comes in from Harvester Bikes, and he's asking, swimming pool dream team, pick 5 people in any pool from any time. Same with the people too, any person of any caliber. Alive or dead, you know?
Picking the people is pretty, I have a pretty good idea on that. Picking the pool is a little tougher to pick which one I would choose to have for like the dream session.
Yeah. As for the people, who you got lined up?
It'd be Ends, Tirada, Rooftop, Thorn, and then I'm gonna have to make it 6 people, not just 5. But my friend Miles from LA and Jeff, who I was talking about earlier too.
Nice, dude. That sounds like an unreal session.
That was like fortunately that was like the crew for a while, and anytime like that group of people got together, it was always super fun. And yeah, that's dream team right there.
Dude, I love it. That sounds incredible. I bet you that would be just the best session to come and join and watch, just anything like that. You guys could put out like a whole video just with that.
Dude, honestly, like with that group of people, even just not just the like hanging out and like shit talking, like that's really what made it the most fun. It's like the riding was obviously amazing given that group of people, but it was like just the whole like even like the car ride there, car ride back, like having some beers after, like that was the best thing ever.
Definitely, dude. Rooftop is like the best shit talker in BMX. You gotta have him. He's so good. Oh man, Andrew, this has been incredible. I got one last question for you, and then we'll close out the show. My last question for you is, as someone who has been actively trying to make BMX better, what are some words of encouragement to others out there who maybe want to do the same?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say just keep doing things that you legitimately believe in, and if it's something you enjoy, just don't stop doing it. Like it just is BMX needing more people to want to contribute to it and do things like that. So if it's something you're excited about and it's going to be positive for other people and BMX in general, just keep doing it and keep having fun with it.
Hell yeah, man. I don't think you could have said it any better. I love it. As I was saying beforehand, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for the opportunity to sit down and speak with you about timeless Canadian BMX and, just yourself in general. This has been awesome.
Thank you for having me on. It's been great talking to you.
Absolutely, man. So at this point, if you got any shout outs, anybody you want to thank, anything you want to, maybe plug, tell people about, do it now, man. We'd love to hear it.
I'll keep it pretty simple, but just shout out to like my sponsors, United Profile, Timeless related, just like I said before, all the shops and all the people that have reached out to us and have like supported us and just been encouraging. That means so much. And obviously Sean at Timeless too. He's been a huge part and couldn't have done it without him. So yeah, just thank you to all those people, and thanks for you for reaching out and sitting down to talk. It's been really fun.
Dude, absolutely. And if you're a listener at home and you're in Canada and for some reason your local shop doesn't get United, Relic, or Fast and Loose, and you want some of that, tell them to hit up Timeless. You guys are just starting out. It'd be great to see you guys in every shop in Canada in, the coming, months. It would be really cool to see that. That would be incredible.
Dude, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thanks again for getting those frames. That's so sick.
Absolutely, man. And to all you guys at home who have stuck around this far, thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week with episode 91. Peace.